Let's take a look at finding a weighted average. So first you determine the weight of each value, then you multiply the weight by the value, and then you calculate the sum of all of those values in step 2. So for example, an instructor has a weighted grading in a class that assigns the following weights: 20% for homework, 10% for quizzes, 40% for exams, and 30% for the final. If a student has these scores, what is their overall grade in the class? So what we can do, first off, 20% for the homework, the student didn't get all of them. They got a ratio of 93 out of 100 of those points, that percent. So this would be like 93% of 20%. That's for the quizzes. So that would be determine the weight, 20%, multiply by the value, 93 over 100, and then calculate the sum. So the next one would be for the quizzes, 10%. And they didn't get all of those. They got 84 out of 100 of those percent. The next one, exams, 40% of their grade, and they got 329 out of 400 of those points possible. And finally, the 30% for the final, and they got 91 out of 100 on the final. Now, if you look at the percents, 20 plus 10 is 30, plus 40 is 70, plus 30 is 100%. So we're not missing any part of their grade. Let's take a look at what the calculator gives us. So 20 times 93 divided by 100 plus 10 times 84 divided by 100 plus 40 times 329 divided by 400 plus 30 times 91 divided by 100 equals their grade is 87.2, and the units here are all these percents everywhere, 87.2%. Then you would look up in the syllabus what that means. It's probably a B+, but whatever. We figured out how to use the weighted average given the weights and the scores. Okay. So another example, a friend has 73% average before the final exam. That score includes everything but the final, which counts for 15% of the course grade. What is the best course grade percent your friend can earn? So they have 73% average. So we have to consider that there's everything before the final, 73% they have on that, and everything after the final, or the final itself. So before final, the weight, if the final is 15%, then everything before the final is the other 85%. That's the total score in the weight in the class. So they have 73%. So if for the 85% of the course before the final, they have 73%, that would be 73 over 100. And on their 15% final, what is the best course grade? Let's assume they get 100 out of 100 on the final. We can compute what score they can get maximum. That would be 85 times 73 over 100 plus 15 times 100 over 100. They can get a 77.05% maximum score. What score would they need on the final to get a 65% grade in the class? Well, we already know that of the 85% pre-final, they got 73 out of 100. Now let's adjust what we just did and instead say they got an X out of 100 score. And we know the answer is going to be 65%. Let's simplify this with our calculator, see what we have. So 85 times 73 divided by 100, 62.05. Plus, and that would be percent, the unit. 15 divided by 100 is 0.15, and X, and this equals 65%. We're doing a little algebra here. We need to subtract the 62.05%. And that will leave us with, let's go to the right, it would be 0.15x equals, calculator, that would be 65 minus 62.05, 2.95. Okay, last step, solving for x. If we divide by 0.15, we will end up with x equals, calculate that, 2.95 divided by 0.15, 19.66. So I don't know if this is whole number points, but we want to make sure that they get a 65% average. So I would say we want to make sure we meet the minimum, so we round up to 20. 20 out of 100. And that'll make sure that they get a 65% and pass the class. You don't want to go with 19.67. Well, they would do it, but 19.65, 19.6, anything below that wouldn't. So we're just playing it safe. 19.67 if we were rounded, but they didn't say any kind of rounding. Most scores you get are whole number scores, so that's why I'm making an assumption, making sure they're right. All right, it is your turn. So go ahead and try this question out. Pause the video and see what you get. Okay, a 6.7 score, the first minimum score. That's not much on the test. A 73.37 would be required to get an 83%, and a 140.03, which is not possible on a 100-point test. And so, no, it is not possible to get an A given this situation. All right, hope you got it right.